Hey, the Eagles are the only undefeated team in the NFC East, 3-0. They've had some nice wins on the road, some prime time wins. Now let's get a division game against Washington. Eagles game plan starts now.
Hey, give them and take action. 1, 2, 3, go!
Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. I am John Clark along with Ike Reese and Mike Quick, and it is amazing. The Eagles, with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, they have won 20 of 21 regular season games. The only game they've lost over the last 22 months, it was against Washington here in Philly last year. Jalen Hurts, he says he has scars from some things. He remembers things. I think he's going to be highly motivated for this. So let me ask you guys, what is your big matchup in this game?
Without question, it has to be the Eagles' offensive line against the strength of Washington, their defensive front. They're really good up front, talented guys across the board, but this Eagles offensive line, they're so good, they're so talented, they're coached so well. It almost makes me wish that I had been a big guy that could have played in the trenches for Jeff Stoutland. That's how good these guys are. They're so much fun to watch, and when they're in sync, Stoutland says it's like synchronized swimming. And when they're in sync, they're hard to beat.
Yeah, I learned a new word last week on the post-game show, synchronicity. Yeah.
Boom. There it is.
That's a word? I heard it's a word. I heard it's a word, yeah. But I'm going to stick with Mike. You know, Mike's talking about the Eagles' offensive line. Yeah. I'll go to that defensive line. And while this is certainly a strength of this Eagles team, the Washington Commanders' offensive line is not a strength of theirs. At least it hasn't been through the first 3 games. 19 sacks going up against Sam Howell in that offensive front. 9 last week against Buffalo. This is where I believe our defensive line can take advantage of the Washington area and where they're struggling at. And I'm looking at our guys in the interior. My goodness, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, and Jalen Carter, who's all to a tremendous start. These guys are getting after opposing teams. You think about it, 7 tackles for loss. And I'm just going with our defensive tackles. You got almost 5 sacks between the 3 of those guys. And I think you have a great combination of youth when you look at Davis and Carter, and then you got the wise vet there in Fletcher Cox, who's still proven that he has a lot of good football left in him. I expect the interior part of this defensive line to control this game. If Washington can't run the football with Robinson and Gibson to try to stay ahead of the sticks, it's going to put the ball in the quarterback's hands in 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations where they have to throw. And this is where I think the Eagles will start to make big plays on defense. But it starts with the big guys up front, and those 3 defensive tackles have been killing it for 3 straight games.
All right, let's bring in Greg Cosell from NFL Films, and we saw that score. Washington loses 37-3 to the Bills. Sam Howell, 4 interceptions, sacked 9 times. But what else are you seeing from this Washington team in the offense this year?
No, and actually, Sam Howell the week prior had a really strong game, really positive game against the Broncos, bringing the Commanders from behind. He's an interesting guy, guys, because, you know, he came out of North Carolina. He was probably a little bit of a descending player because he's 6 feet tall. He's essentially a pocket player, even though he has some movement, and he didn't have a great last year in college. He's very, very tough in the pocket. He will stand and deliver the ball. What he needs to do is sort of find that balance between when to stand there and deliver and when to realize that, hey, that's not a good idea anymore. And that comes from experience. You have to play games. It's different in the NFL than it is in college. But he can make throws, and he's willing to make throws. And to me, that's always a really positive trait when you transition a quarterback from college to the NFL.
And yeah, when we're looking at the quarterback play here with Sam Howell, it reminds me so much. He's a lot like Taylor Heineke, right? When you talk about the size, the grit, the toughness that he exudes. And it brings me back to last year. We can't forget about the first loss of the season for this Eagles team last year. It came against this Washington Commanders team. And what they want to do is they want to play a game of ball control. They want to keep the offense in manageable down and distance. They don't care if they get just 2 to 3 yards on every play. They're trying to get to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, ball control, and extend drives. And this is where the Eagles have to do a better job than what they did last year of winning on 1st and 2nd down to get them out of that comfort zone. Much like they did last week against Tampa, I think that's what helped them beat the Bucs because Baker had to start making plays.
Yeah, and Ike, you're 100% right. Every team's going to try to run the ball against this Eagles front. but it's hard. Now, Howell, just by the way, he's a more talented kid than Heineke. He can make better throws, but there's no question at this point in his career, they need to be able to run the ball with some kind of efficiency. And I want to go back to week 2 against Denver, because this is the kind of thing I think you'll see. We're going to show an outside zone run here, and it's against a 5-man defensive front. And that's what you're going to get a lot from the Eagles. So this is going to be outside zone, and they block it up really well. Now, Robinson is an eye back here, Brian Robinson. He's a physical runner, and he does a great job of reading this, because he's going to see that his offensive tackle, the left tackle, doesn't do a great job with his block, so he's able to cut this back inside. He does a really nice job, and they block it up well here with the left guard and then the center and the right guard climbing to the next level. So this is what Robinson brings you. He's very physical. He's very tough. If he gets to the second level clean, he's got strength and power to give you more yards. Not explosive. He's not going to take it 60 yards to the house, but he's a sustaining type back. And Ike, you hit it right on the head. It's not a matter of long runs. It's a matter, can they get 4? Can they get 5? The Bucs really struggled with that. Last week, White had, I think, a 10-yard run on first down or a 12-yard run. And other than that, he had 7 rushes for 10 yards on first down. The Commanders will have to do better than that on first down.
All right, Greg, thanks a lot. We will see you later in the show. And it looks like the Eagles may have found something with their defense. You saw James Bradbury in the slot a lot, but the rookie Sidney Brown as well. What did you see from the defense with those formations?
I tell you, you want to be a defensive coordinator in this league, you had better be flexible, man, because, you never know when injuries are going to show up. So I want to give Sean Desai some credit for being able to be flexible and understanding his personnel and moving guys around. I thought James Bradbury did an admirable job in the slot last week, but then we lost Evans in the game, and then my guy Sidney Brown got a chance to go out there and play a little bit. So I thought he did some good things in the slot. You're talking about versatility on that back end.
Yeah.
So having the ability to play in the run game as well as be effective in the passing game, that's what we're seeing with those players back there. And then you have Sean Desai making sure he's putting them in the right position to make plays.
And when you're facing this Washington offense, they're very good with the screen game, getting a lot of yards on the screen. So as a defender, what do you have to do when you see screen? How to slow it down and shut it down?
All right, Coach, so you do this at 3 different levels. As a defensive line, you never want to take away the aggression of rushing a passer.
Right.
But what you have to realize as a defensive line, if it feels too easy, it is too easy. So, you got to be able to retrace your steps, come back and chase the football from behind. But out in front of these screens, the linebackers and safeties, you got to do a great job of recognizing when these offensive linemen are trying to release, get out in the open field, and then it becomes leverage and lane responsibility. In other words, if you have the inside responsibility, stay on the inside, you force the runner to your help on the outside, and vice versa.
Didn't you guys first thing start screaming? Scream!
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. You got to make sure you alert everybody.
Everyone starts screaming, it's a screen, it's a screen, and then everybody starts scattering around. But in Washington, Eric Bieniemy's there. Yeah. He's their offensive coordinator. Where did he come from?
Kansas City.
Kansas City with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, one of the best in the league, and putting screen games together, making that a part of your plan, is Andy Reid and now Eric Bieniemy in Washington.
I guess that means Eagles have to watch for the shovel pass then.
Well, that's the thing. You don't want to start overthinking when you're out there as a D lineman. So you almost want to react to the screen versus trying to anticipate it. But it also helps that if you have them in a down and distance, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, that's usually where the screens come into play, because they want to get Sam Howell easy throws and manageable plays. So you react to the screen versus anticipating it, because you don't want to become less aggressive as a pass rusher. You still want to have that, and then you come back and play the screen.
Retrace your steps.
Retrace your steps.
And if you're the little guys in the secondary, stay away from those big fellas running down the field, right? Do not get gobbled up.
Well, do something.
You're gonna get gobbled
make somebody
up.
trip over you or something. Yeah, don't get out of the way.
Ike Reese had his moment in the sun calling his shot after the first game. Mike Quick called it. A.J. Brown would have a big game, 9 catches over 130 yards. What did you see from the passing game between Jalen Hurts and A.J.?
I just thought that they had that rhythm that you want to see, the way they played in the past season. Even when A.J. has tight coverage on him, you got to feel like he's still going to win, because he bodies guys and he moves guys around with his bodies because he's so strong, and defenders just bounce off of him. And I think this week it's going to be similar. They're going to have to throw the ball on the outside. You know that Washington, they're strong in the trenches. They've got guys that are going to get pressure on you. But when you look at Forbes on the outside and the other corner, Fuller, you've got to be able to attack these guys and take advantage of them. So I'm looking for the guys on the outside to have another big game against Washington.
Sounds like a Slim Reaper game to me.
Yeah. He's pulling his shot again. He's trying to go 2 for 2. Let's bring in Greg Cosell from NFL Films once again. What are you seeing with that Washington defense, Greg?
Well, John, the way this defense is built, it's really built on the front four. They have to play well. You know, different from some of the teams the Eagles have played this year that played a lot of 5-man fronts. This is a front four-based defense. And if that front four is not playing well, then the whole defense suffers. Now, they've got some good players throughout the defense, but it all starts there. And they count on those players in critical situations to be able to make plays. And there was a really good example in the Week 2 game against Denver when you get below 2 minutes in the game and you see that the Broncos are in the red zone. And this is what this front four has to be able to do. And let's start with Chase Young, who's now back playing about 50 snaps a game the last couple of weeks. Chase Young is going to rush from his right defensive end position, and he's going to show the raw power that he has just driving the left tackle back into the pocket. But then there's other parts to this. There's Montez Sweat from the other side against a mobile quarterback starting to work outside, but slowing his rush because he doesn't want to run past Russell Wilson, and that's critical. That's very important when you play Jalen Hurts as well. But then on the other side as well, when you deal with Young, you also have a little bit of a stunt here, an ET stunt. And you see Jonathan Allen working behind Young, and they just all meet at the quarterback. This is what this defense is really all about. And they're going to have to play at a high level against an offensive line that, quite frankly, particularly in the run game, guys, has been so dominant in the last 2 weeks.
This week here on Tape Study, presented by Chickies and Pete's, the official sports bar of the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to keep talking about this Eagles defensive matchup against a second-year quarterback, a young quarterback making his 5th start in Sam Howell. Go back to last year. The Eagles had 9 sacks of Carson Wentz in that early season game down in Washington. Howell now coming off a 9-sack performance against the Buffalo Bills. And a lot of that has to do with having the marriage between the rush and the coverage. And that's something I think we saw this past week against the Tampa Bay Bucs. We're going to start here on the sack that is split between Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox. And both guys are going to win with power here. It's a great rush from both of those players. They get home to Baker Mayfield. But what happens on the back end that leads to that sack? I want you to watch here because the Bucs are running a simple 2-man concept. You're going to run a vertical route on the outside, and you have Mike Evans running a quick out route. That's what Baker Mayfield wants. If you look at him here, after he catches the snap, he's looking immediately to his left, and he wants to hit a rhythm throw. He wants to hit the top of his drop and throw this out route to Mike Evans. But look at Darius Slay. He is sitting on this quick game throw. That ball's not going to be there for Baker Mayfield. Now that allows the rush to be able to get home. Baker Mayfield takes a sack, and the next play, we get this fumble there from Jalen Carter. Let's go to a little bit earlier in the game, and we see a sack from Marlon Tuipulotu, who is lined up here at nose tackle. This is going to start with a rush from Brandon Graham coming off the left side. He's going to get home. He's going to force Baker Mayfield to step up, and Tuipulotu is there to clean up. It's a great complimentary sack, great rush there from the defensive line. But go into the back 7 again, and you're going to see exactly what forced Baker Mayfield to hold on to this football, because after the Bucs motion into a 3-man bunch set, they are running a classic concept. It's one that is in every team's playbook. It's called Dagger, where you're going to get a vertical route and you're going to get a deep in cut. And what this is meant to do is this vertical route is going to remove the safety. You're hoping that these underneath routes are going to occupy these underneath defenders, and you should get a nice void here in the middle of the field for that deep in cut. As we let this roll, you're going to see, you're going to get the rush from Brandon Graham. That's going to force the quarterback off his spot. This vertical route from Mike Evans, that's going to remove safety Terrell Edmonds. So the void is going to be there. You can see a lot of green grass in the middle of the field. But I want you to watch the 2 linebackers. Watch Nicholas Morrow. Watch Zach Cunningham. They feel this concept. They feel it coming because you're going to see both guys inch in towards the middle of the field, right towards the hash marks. Watch both guys. They constrict it. It's like an anaconda squeezing down its prey. That coverage window is closed. Baker Mayfield has nowhere to go with the football, and you can see right here, the moment that ball's supposed to be out, he's about to be sacked by Tui Pelotu. Great job on the back seven. And when you're going up against a young quarterback, you have got to confuse him pre-snap, give him something different post-snap. You're going to shut down those early primary reads, and then you're going to allow that rush to be able to get home. The Eagles are not a high-volume blitz team, but when you've got a front four like they do, give those guys time to get home with sound play on the back seven. We saw it last week against Tampa. We'll see if they can do it again this week against Sam Howell and the Commanders.
All right, welcome back to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. The Eagles are trying to go to 4-0 for a second straight year, and these guys have been calling their shots. He called the pick six from Slay week 1. He called A.J. Brown's big game, so let's dive right back in. Let's see if one of you can get it. Ike Reese, what's your call your shot?
Well, that's pretty tough for me this week, fellas, because I wanted to give my LBs some love, my linebackers, Zach Cunningham, Nicholas Morrow. I wanted to show them some love, so I almost said guaranteed interception and a sack for those guys. And then I woke up. So now I'm going with my second love, special teams. You saw Brent Covey last week.
Okay.
Big return.
Ooh.
So right now I'm calling my shot. There will be a return for a touchdown, whether it's a punt return or a kickoff return. Devin Allen, Brent Covey, bring it home for your boy.
A return in the NFL.
Listen,
Wow.
if that
Today's
happens,
NFL.
Merrill Reese is going to jump out of his chair. Listen, I'll call my shot. I was right last week with A.J. Brown having a big week receiving. I'm going to the other side this week. I like the Slim Reaper. They've got a guy over there, Emmanuel Forbes. He's about 160 pounds, soaking wet. And I think the Slim Reaper matched up, both of these slim guys matched up on one another, but I'm taking Devontae Smith to have a big game against Washington.
Typical receiver and defensive guy. No DeAndre Swift, call your shot, either of the first 3 weeks. Maybe DeAndre goes off again. He's the second leading rusher. By the way, the Eagles, they're the best team in the NFL against the run, and they're the NFC's best team running the ball. The lines are dominating.
So are you saying DeAndre, is that your pick?
That's mine. That's mine. I don't even really get a say, but I'm going DeAndre again. I'm a Swiftie. Kelsey Swift, best
We all
combo.
are. We're all Swifties now.
Every show now turns into a Swift-Kelsey show. All right, thanks for watching Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. Enjoy the game.